Anti-Vax rallies, also known as super spreader events, have been pretty common in the United States. However, it seems that other countries have had their own issues. In fact, Canada just recently had their own anti-vax rally, and it just so happens that friend of the show and one half of the Serfs, the notorious Lance Redacted, he has no last name, covered one in his neck of the Great White North. After I show you that video, we're going to have a chat with him. Take a look.
We're in the middle of the Freedom Rally, surrounded by fellow patriots, looking to end communism in this country, stop the stranglehold of Justin Trudeau, no more communism, and achieve freedom. Freedom for all Canadians. Every single one of them. Soon we will taste the sweet milk of freedom. Oh, nice. We got the stars.
For your future, fight for your children. If not for yourself, fight for your children and your children's children. It's enough. Say no to segregation and discrimination in our country. We're here because we love you. We're here fighting for your rights and freedoms just as much as our own. No vax pass. No vax pass. No segregation.
Oh, yeah. Send it to the commies. Hell yeah. Tell the commies, we're coming for you, communists! We're coming for the communists! Hell yeah!
Liberal powers.
800 of you.
Hell yes. What can you tell me about this beautiful piece of art?
Well, we did it, and it's done.
Oh, pure blood shirts too? Fuck yes.
No vax pass!
Tell them.
Vax pass.
Let them know. Communism. Yes. Fuck the communists. We'll get them all. Hell yeah.
White supremacists.
Oh, the black Canadian flag.
White supremacists.
I'm here with Lance Redacted from the Serfs, well-known Brendan Fraser lookalike, or perhaps Brendan Fraser is the one that looks like you.
He's a Lance lookalike.
It could be. It could be. So now you were at the rally that we just saw, and I just want you to share with the audience your general experience with the insanity, if you would.
Yeah, it was a very diverse group, not in any kind of racial breakup. It was mostly white people. I just mean it was very diverse in that there was different ideologies combining together. There was a lot of people there who just hate vaccines, a lot of people there who hate lockdowns. But overall, I would say what unites them is probably a deep hatred for communism, of which they all believe is a part of, or run by a communist. I'm not entirely sure.
So it's basically like a Voltron of insanity coalesced together to create this anti-communist super soldier, super like robot or something, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Oh! Don't let me forget anti-Semitism. A lot of anti-Semitism on display. A lot of stars. People wearing Holocaust, hearkening to the Holocaust style stars on their shoulders, as if the equivocation of wearing a mask and having to take a vaccine to one of the most atrocious events in human history is a fair thing to do, and not at all in poor taste.
Yeah, it seems like no right-wing anti-vax rally or anti-lockdown rally, as we call them here in the States, is complete without some sort of throwback to either Nazism or anti-Semitism. It's almost as if they go hand in hand. I don't know if you saw the recent rally that happened in Washington, or you've covered it at all, or Washington, D.C. Yeah, so there's some unfortunate comparisons that you have heard.
Yeah, and in the speeches as well, it would seem. I mean, there's a reason why every time I log into Twitter and I see one of the top trending things being the Holocaust, I'm like,
boy.
Yeah, not again.
Not again. Not again. Never again. Maybe.
Yeah, never again.
Never again. So I guess the first question I want to ask, since you were there and you had recorded it, and by the way, it's a very entertaining video. I really enjoyed the editing of it.
Oh, thank you.
Yes. Well, I just got to ask you, did they succeed? Did they defeat the communisms? Did they do it, and did they get it done?
I mean, I guess when you set your own goals, it's up to you to determine whether or not you've achieved them. Would be the best way I can put it. I mean, they certainly were newsworthy.
Yes.
I could not lie to you and say that the numbers were not massive. I only knew about it because I was sitting in my apartment and I could hear like chanting from outside. And as it got louder, I could start to make it out. It was "my body, my choice," but
Oh boy.
it sounded to be like a lot of men chanting that, rather than typically you'd hear women if it was like an anti-abortion rally or something like that. I immediately ran out of my apartment to see just thousands and thousands of people lining the streets in a variety of costumes and get-ups.
Yeah, I mean, generally when you hear people yelling or shouting or chanting outside your window, that's cue for me to stay inside. If that happens. But you were not only brave enough to see what was going on, ballsy enough, dare I say, and then to grab a camera and to go outside and be like, yeah, get the commies.
I want to say this because a lot of people are worried in the comments. I was pretty socially distanced from what you see. Like, I know it seems like I'm in the middle of a crowd. I'm actually standing like 1.5 meters from the parade itself.
For Americans, because we don't do metric here.
We're
imperials.
Sorry.
We're imperials.
Yeah, so it's like 6 to 7 feet, 6 to 7 feet distance from the actual action itself. Where I was yelling, like I found if I tried to march in it for a little while, even at a distance, they wouldn't really be keen on anything you said unless it seemed as if you were actually in a part of it. Like you had to kind of amalgamate into the greater movement.
Blend in.
Yes, that's it.
Very, very, very good. So the second question, I guess, is, again, you've covered a lot of the anti-vax and anti-mask and anti-lockdown movements or demonstrations in the United States. How would you compare that to the movement in Canada? Let me give you a couple of stats before you answer that question. I mean, you're probably well aware that like the vast majority of Canadians are already vaccinated. In fact, you have a 78.6% vaccination rate. That's pretty good. The United States. I have this thing where I accidentally say America as if like the United States is the only fucking country, and we're not, and so I have to de-Americanize myself.
I knew exactly.
Yeah, exactly. And so, but again, we have probably about I think it's a 64% vaccination rate in the United States. We're a disaster. And so getting back to my question, right, how do you compare the anti-vax sentiment and movement versus, in Canada versus the United States? Do you think it's smaller or larger or more pointed or like more organized? What do you think?
Oh, I don't know off the top of my head by ratio of the population how concentrated it is. I could say that like it seems like this one just seems a little sillier on its surface because I don't know if your viewers know this, but Vancouver isn't in the middle of a lockdown. I could leave my apartment if I wanted. I could go dine somewhere. There are certain regulations in place, like you can't have groups of more than 6 people go out for a meal, for example, and you do need to have proof of vaccination to eat out. But to say that like we're in the midst of this draconian lockdown that is in any way comparable to world historic events is like absolutely absurd. So that on its surface, that part seems a little more ridiculous. But then, I mean, if I'm saying that, someone will be like, "Well, yeah, but the U.S. isn't in a lockdown either." So.
Well, we never were.
Right. Yeah. See, we were at one point. We were in an actual full-on like 3-week lockdown. I would say that I think it is a very loud and vocal minority is what it is. And I mean, they are taking action in terms of like that is a direct action rally. They're
Mhm.
very loud politically. They align themselves with a group in Canada called the PPC, which is
Mhm.
kind of a far right political party. And they are the ones who during the last election were throwing rocks at Justin Trudeau. They are the ones who are galvanized enough to hit the streets. So I don't want to discount them as just
Sure.
being this like group of wild people, despite what the narration of that video might show,
Mhm.
um,
Mhm.
because they are in fact organized, to say the least.
Right. I mean, considering how they are a minority, I mean, it does kind of make me feel better as an American, as a member of the United States, that there is insanity even among some of our more slightly civilized neighbors.
I'll be honest with you, Jeff. I think it's just an amazing piece of PR that people think that Canada is this wonderful utopia of like social democracy or something. It's like it's America with public health care up to your neck kind of
Right.
thing in a lot
Right.
of ways. But there's still a huge amount of far right groups,
Yep.
the Knights of Odin. I mean, there is progress in that, like the Proud Boys, for example. That's considered a terrorist organization in Canada, and right after that happened, the chapters here dissolved. So they
Right.
do take some steps towards addressing this, but yeah, it doesn't matter if it's Canada. I mean, look at the ones in Brisbane, or the ones that were taking place in various cities across Europe, like people who are part of the anti-mandate or anti-lockdown or anti-vax movements are very vocal, angry, and in some cases violent.
And it's of course something we all share all across the world, and all the different
Mhm.
lockdown or anti-lockdown and demonstrations that we've seen from the United States, Germany, even Australia. But again, in those other countries, they actually have a smaller minority, as well as and I really wanted to bring this up as another question. How do you think? How do you think universal healthcare, the fact that you do have at least some form of universal healthcare, even if it's only up to your neck, which is way more than what we have, how do you think that kind of like plays into this, as far as like the trust factor in medicine, science, doctors, compared to that you see in the U.S.?
Well, there is a really big issue in this country right now directly related to that, because at the end of the day, if you do have a public healthcare system and it already has weaknesses in a variety of points,
Mm-hmm.
if you have people who are largely unvaccinated suddenly arriving in hospitals because
Mm-hmm.
the people who are having to be treated for COVID-19 are predominantly unvaxxed, there's an argument in the country right now as to like how exactly do we handle that? Certain
Right.
provinces have suggested, should we tax or give additional taxes to people who are unvaccinated? The counter to that is that it should be like, would you put the same argument forward to people who smoke? Right? Should a
Mm-hmm.
smoker be allowed
Mm-hmm.
to have public health care because they're actually doing something they know directly impacts their health? Which of course would give way to like the slippery slope fallacy or something of that effect. Um, as of right now, Canada's handling it okay. There are certain
Right.
provinces that are worse than others in terms of their ability to deal with this problem. Um, but I mean, it is something that obviously, like, if people want to protest on the streets because they don't want there to be, they don't want lockdown measures, or they don't want to have to wear masks or whatever it is, that to me is a far cry, and I don't even have a problem with that in essence, because like I think you should have the right to protest.
Of
That's a
course.
far cry from the same individuals who are blocking ambulances at hospitals, or
Yeah.
barging into schools or barging into hospitals trying to prove that the beds are empty or stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I think like you've crossed into just deplorable behavior.
And as well as dangerous behavior,
Mhm.
because you're putting people literally at risk. And
Yeah.
some of those people that are most at risk are the ones that are in the hospitals, and so that makes a bad situation already worse. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and I'd love to have a longer conversation about all of these different factors, maybe at another time. But I think for now, let's leave it at that. Hey, I want to thank you for your time, of course. And why don't you tell everybody where they can find you?
If you want to see more of my foibles, you can check out youtube.com/the Serfs TV, where me and another Canadian named Dave make long form documentaries on random shit. And if you want to watch streaming stuff about news and other silly things, go to twitch.tv/the Serfs TV. And thanks so much for having me. This was a blast.
You're welcome. And everybody give him a follow. And by the way, if you want to see classic Lance, you can always, of course, rent Encino Man or watch The Mummy. And you were great in both of those, by the way. Big fan.
Thank you.